Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and last year I made a compact survival tin with my friend JJ, and we haven't quite put it to the test yet. So that's what we're doing today. Now on a hot summer day like today, one of my biggest priorities is gonna be water. And now, luckily where I live, there's water friggin' everywhere. Water flowing out of every crack in the ground. Spring heads all over the place. It's very easy to find water. You can't really help but trip over it pretty much everywhere you go. I've got a pond behind the camera here, which is some pretty scuzzy water. And I would choose to drink the water out of this creek right here as long as I have a way to make it safe to drink, because I know that there's cattle upstream, there's animals pooping and dying and doing whatever else you can think of in this water. And it's probably not safe to drink as is, at least for the long run. It's probably going to make me sick. I might get away with it for a short term, for a day or two, but then it's very possible that I could get really sick and get further dehydrated unless I have a way to make my water safe to drink like I have in my survival tin here. So I don't know if you appreciate the bedazzlement as much as I do, but we added those on there, to keep it easy to find. So if we drop that in the grass, you're going to catch a little glint, a little glimmer off of there instead of a black tin. Look at that. Practical and fashionable right there. But anyway, inside of the kit, I've got right on top is an oven bag. And by the way, the basic premise of this original video was that we could buy a store-bought survival kit. And we discussed that most of them are kind of crappy. There's a whole lot of crap in there that's pretty much useless. Either inexpensive, really cheap gear that's going to fail on you, or it just doesn't really have the essentials of the stuff that you need. And fitting everything that you need into a survival tin, like an Altoid size tin like this, is really difficult. And two things come to mind specifically that make it really challenging, and that's shelter and a water container. Shelter is very difficult to store in a small, compact space such as this. I mean, if you put a Mylar blanket in there, it would fill up the entire tin. Yeah, you could strap one to the outside, but I wanted to kind of stick to the contents inside of the tin. But anyway, so we're talking about water. This is an oven bag. It's a great big clear plastic bag that you could literally suspend over a fire over hot coals and boil water in it. Would I recommend that you boil water and drink out of a plastic bag? No, but if you're dying of dehydration and you're having to drink out of something like this scuzzy, nasty, nearly dried up pond with a whole lot of animal poo and stuff in there, and it doesn't get freshly cycled, it's not flowing like our creek is. If you're having to drink out of something like that and you're potentially going to be in a situation for the long term, then you're going to get really sick drinking out of something like that, most likely, unless you got the guts of a beagle. So having something like this water bag right here, and in the bottom of our kit, well, really quickly, I guess I'll just show you. I'll show you kind of what's in here. So we've got our oven bag right here for water, or what other uses we could come up with to use a plastic bag like that. We've got a Ranger band that held our lid closed. This is a mirror with a protective coating on it. I peel that off and it's a mirror, so I could use that for signaling purposes, or if I got something in my eyeball and I'm really suffering, or something stuck in my tooth, or who knows, I could use this mirror to inspect it. We've got some bank line right here. I forget what number this is, 36 perhaps, something like that. Anyway, bank line right there, which is really strong stuff and very handy for lots of purposes like shelter construction and stuff like that. You can further break it down by untwisting it, and you can get smaller strands like that and maybe even do some fishing with it. We have a bright pink Bic lighter, the mini Bic. Now, yes, it would be nice to have the full-size Bic lighter in there, but for size reasons, for storage reasons, I just went with this small little Bic lighter. Very reliable. The most trusted way to start a fire, in my opinion. The Bic lighter is my go-to right there. Some super glue, which can be used for all sorts of things, from clothing gear repair to closing up a wound. You know, an improvised stitch right there is just some super glue. I've got two small little tinder tabs right here to help me get a fire going in wet weather conditions. If it's not wet, it's really dry like it is today, I'm not going to need anything like that. I could just use my lighter and some dry tinder that I can source, no problem. But if I'm struggling, you know, maybe I'm injured or something like that, and I'm really, really cold and it's wintertime, these tinder tabs can be a lifesaver. A small button compass right there. A very accurate means of navigation. I use these all the time. I've discussed this in other videos. A lot of people hate the button compass. You know, your navigation gurus out there are going to say your button compass is useless. It's not useless. I have used it a lot in a lot of situations for general basic direction wayfinding. Like, let's say, you know, I can kind of use the sun to figure out which way is what. Like, I know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and typically in the middle of the day it's towards the south, so I can kind of make a judgment call on which direction is what. But let's say it's really, really cloudy today and I just can't use that, and I'm confused. I'm down in a valley somewhere and I just can't really see the sun, and I don't know which way is what. This is very effective at helping me find my way. If I know the river is east of me and I just need to travel in an east-ish direction, I don't have to go follow a direct, precise azimuth or anything. I can just go east-ish and then run into the river, and that gets me out of trouble. That's exactly what these button compasses are for, and a small, compact little navigational beacon such as that is really, really nice. We've got some duct tape. Everybody knows duct tape, it can fix just about anything. If I had room for WD-40, oh man, we could make the world go round with duct tape and WD-40. I've got a couple of water purification tabs right here. These tablets are really nice and a very convenient way to make your water safe from waterborne pathogens. This is enough to treat a half a gallon of water, which I think that bag I think it holds over a gallon, maybe like 2 gallons. I forget what size that is. And then a safety pin, just in case, you know, you need to secure something to something. Who knows, dig a splinter out of your hand or something, out of your foot, step on a piece of glass and need to get that out of there. Safety pin is really nice for something like that. And then in the bottom there is my ulu. This is a blade of my design, a really simple survival blade based on a long, really old design. The ulu has been used for a long, long time. And this one is just made to fit in a survival kit. Really small and thin. 1/8 inch steel right there. And a razor sharp Scandi grind on there. This thing will do all the slicing that you need. Would I prefer a knife with a handle? Would I prefer a knife like this one right here with a handle on it? Yes, absolutely. But you can't fit this very well in a survival tin. That's the whole premise behind it. Yes, I definitely would prefer a knife with a substantial sized handle on there, but it just won't fit in a small compact survival kit as easily. And then you could talk about all your little folders or razor blades and all that kind of stuff, but it's not going to be as effective as this right here. This is a real blade that you can do some beating and some pounding on and get the job done. One of the cool things about this little knife is that you can attach it to a larger stick, and you can get yourself a real chopping, like a small little makeshift tomahawk basically. And you can use the blade to get your stick. It doesn't have to be anything really substantial. It could be something fairly small. Something as small as this right here would probably be fine. Just bend it, press that ulu into it. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that just sheared it right off really easy. Just like that. And then a lot of people were questioning how you kind of work with this thing, how you handle it. And this is what I do. I kind of just pinch the blade like that. And I do push cuts, just like you would with a normal knife. Just kind of hold it slightly different. Like that. And I can round off my stick pretty easily. If there's any little nubs on there, I just do kind of little slices, nubs on the stick, like that. Works quite well for stuff like this, little crafting projects. Go. And if I wanted to attach this to amplify my abilities, I could split this stick right here and then insert the ulu into there and then lash it on with some of the cordage that I have. I may or may not do that today, but I'll show you kind of how I would do that to start with. Right down the middle. Could take another stick and tap it if you want to. But what I'll do is I'll typically just get it started like that. And then I'll just slowly start pressing in really carefully, keeping my other hand away. Don't ever do anything like that. That would be really stupid. Don't do that. Keep your hand far away from there. And I'm just kind of wiggling. I'm not pushing very hard. I'm not really pushing at all. I'm just kind of wiggling. And that's giving me the split that I'm looking for. Let's take our ulu and we will insert it in sideways like that. And then we just lash it on there. Now I like this method a lot if you're doing some sort of construction or you're doing some sort of shelter building and you need to hack through some bigger stuff. Excellent way to do it. Lash it on there. Just be careful when you're doing it so you don't cut yourself. But lash it on there really, really securely. The tighter the better. And then with this small little branch that I've got, you have amplified the abilities of this small little blade by like 20. You can really do some serious work. You know what? I'll go ahead and do it for you. There's also one more little tidbit into this tin that I forgot to mention, and that is for long-term survival. We were thinking ahead. So we put some pumpkin seeds in there so we could plant next year's garden. There we go. Long-term food right there. Pumpkin seeds. We could probably use duct tape as well. I haven't tried that. I haven't done that. I've usually just lashed it on there, but we could probably get away with just some strips of duct tape. I don't know if that'll work or not. Let's try it. Before we do that, we should probably get going on our water first because I think it's going to take a little while. So what we're talking about, maybe you're not going to have this beautiful water source right here where you can pretty much drink out of it. I have drank some water out of here and not gotten sick, but you'd still want to purify it in some way. I could fill my bag up with water out of there, and then I could drop some water purification tablets in that I have, and I've got a half gallon of purified water. Or I'm stuck with the pond over here. I'm digging some sort of seep well next to the body of water. Or if I've got a big clear bag like this, there's something else that I can do. I've done this before with large bags, and it's been very effective. I have not done it with a smaller bag like this, but we're going to see how it works. So let's go do that while we're crafting other things. There we go. With this bag is Improvised a Transpiration bag. So I'm gonna wrap it over top of a branch here, over top of maybe this poplar branch. Obviously do it with something that's not poisonous. Don't do it on a poison ivy vine or something. but I'm gonna wrap it over top of this poplar right here. And poplars are really good at sucking up water out of the ground. And I'm hopeful that on a hot day like today, a sunny day, that it's going to be pumping a lot of water through there, and it might just give me a little bit of water to drink out of this bag. And obviously you need to have access to a sunny spot. I mean, it'll work to some degree without a lot of sunshine, but it works way better if you put it in a sunny location. We've got our bag wrapped up, sealed up around the end of this poplar branch right here. And in hopes, you can already see it working. Look at that. Can you see it kind of fogging up in there? That's the transpiration process happening right there in front of our eyes. The water's getting pulled up through the roots of this tree, out its branches, into its leaves, and then the moisture is being pumped out through the leaves and into our sealed up container, our bag. And hopefully after enough time has passed, the water is gonna settle, trickle down to the bottom there, and we'll be able to collect it and drink it. But I've gotta tie this thing down here because if I let it go, it's gonna swing back up towards the sky, and then the water might potentially drain out the open end of the bag there. So I wanna make sure this part is nice and low. I don't wanna cut my cordage if I don't have to, because I might need the full length for some other reason later on, and that's just a good rule of thumb. Don't cut your cord unless you got to. So I'm just gonna tie it off down here to something. And I'm gonna do that with a very simple knot. I don't even know if I'd even call this a knot. Double it up over like that. Lark's head, maybe? I think that's what this is called. Double your line up. Double it over again. Like that, and it makes this little slip loop right there. And I could just wrap that around pretty much anything. And generally, if you're not putting a whole lot of load on it, the friction of the line itself will keep that from going anywhere. So that's what I'll do. I'll just kind of stick it through one of these little branches here. And that'll probably be enough to hold it, and it is. And I'm gonna leave this in the sunshine while we do other things and let it do its work. Well, I've got another ulu in my pocket here, and it comes with this really nice pocket leather sheath right there. The one ulu that I showed you earlier was Cerakoted. This one's just plain, which I kind of like the plain. I like the looks of the plain one. Never tried it with duct tape before. I've had really good success with cordage, with the bank line or something similar. Fishing line would work, but let's use a small strip. Making it nice and tight, giving a good yank on it. Being careful around that blade. Don't be pulling towards the blade. Now, I'm under no illusion that this will last forever, right, in this current shape with duct tape. But it will last long enough to get the job done. If I needed to construct some sort of shelter, I could put this to some work, and we could use this. Like I said, it will make this tool 20 times more powerful, more effective than just using it by hand like a knife. So let's go chop some stuff. Maybe I needed this larger sapling right here to construct my shelter. Let's see if I can get that to go through it. Wow. And I'm not swinging hard because it is just tape holding the thing together. But we're still in good shape. And we're through that alder very easy. I mean, with no effort whatsoever. I'm just whipping this little sapling right here that I've used as my handle. And if I needed to craft it, shape it any different, and you can still use it just like before as kind of a knife with those push cuts. Even more effectively now because you got more to hold on to. And now you've basically got a knife handle that we discussed was kind of its shortcomings before, as it doesn't have a handle, or a significant handle at least. But now we do. Give it one of these. Like that, and we're through. Tear our tape off, and then we can put it back in our survival kit. And let's say we're done using our ulu as a makeshift tomahawk. We could keep all of this tape here. I could literally do something. You could do something like this. Keep all your tape. Stick it in there like that. And then we could use this to help start our fire if we needed it. Just light that up with our lighter, stick that underneath our little fire lay, and that will help us get our fire going. duct tape is pretty dang flammable. And that big ball of duct tape will burn for quite a long time. We could stick that underneath our fire ladle, like I said, and that'll help us get our fire going if it was a little bit wet. The duct tape will get the job done. It's definitely not as robust as using the cordage. If I use the bank lime, it would be much, much more effective and last a lot longer than the duct tape. The duct tape will get through chopping a few, good sized branches, saplings like that, but eventually it would probably fail on us. So the cordage is definitely the way to go. So let's look at our mirror here. Let's see how effective this little guy is. I mean, it weighs nothing. It's paper thin, literally. But let's see how effective it is at signaling. Assuming you can get out to a place where it's not completely covered by tree canopy, if you're in this right here, good luck signaling to anyone, anywhere with something like this. But assuming you can climb to some sort of hilltop where there's some sort of clearing, or clearing in a field like this, and then you can get the word out, you can get the message out, that'll be extremely effective. So I'll just back off a little ways. I'll go, let's see how far we can see. That's the thing about signal mirrors, is you have to be able to see what it is that you're trying to signal to. You can't just shoot a flare up through the canopy and hope for the best. You've got to literally be able to see the thing. So I'm going to put you as far away as I can still see. And I'll stand in a sunny spot and try to signal to you. And you can let me know if you see the flash. Blue protective coating. And expose our mirror. I haven't looked at the footage yet. You could tell me what you think. Let me know in the comment section. Did you see the flash? Was it an effective means of communication / signaling? Could you see it really, really clearly? I did notice that the shine, it works much better if you don't convex it or concave the little mirror. If you keep it really, really flat, it seems to work much more effectively. And that's a little bit difficult to do with this thing being really, really thin like that, but maybe just could have been just the way that I was holding it. Perhaps just holding it like this would be the most effective way to do it without bending the mirror at all. But I think it probably worked quite well. That reflective, shiny thing can be seen from a long ways away. And if you were hurt, couldn't move, but you managed to get, or were just happen to be in some sort of clearing with some sunshine, that could be seen a long ways away. So do I think these small, compact survival tins are worth their weight? Yeah, I mean, chances of you needing all of the things in this kit in a survival situation are slim. Chances of you needing one or two of the things could be quite high. Now, I carry a lot of this stuff, kind of in my pockets. Like I have a lighter in my pocket right now. I have a knife on my hip right now. So a lot of this stuff is kind of redundant, but redundant is not a bad thing. And redundant means that if something should happen to your primary thing, my primary knife should fall out of my holster, the Kydex breaks and I just lose the whole thing, I've got a backup here that can get the job done. Is it going to be an ideal situation? Of course not. But no survival situation is an ideal situation. That's how you ended up there in the first place. Something went wrong and that's why you're there. One way that I would use my button compass to make it a little bit more accurate and more effective, because it is small. I mean, it is hard. I shouldn't say hard. It's more difficult to read than a better, bigger compass, right? But something you can do to kind of amplify, magnify its direction finding abilities is just to use a straight-ish stick. So what I would do would obviously don't set your button compass on the metal tin because that will make it not effective. Keep it away from anything metal. Set it on the ground like that. And then I just let it do its thing. I let it do its thing and find its way north. There we go. Once it settles in, I can lay my stick at that angle, right, at that degree in which that needle is pointing north. And that gives me something I can sight with a little bit better, right? So now I've backed off here. I can see my needle's pointing north. If that's the direction I wanted to go, I know there's a road to the north. I can lay my stick down pointing that way. And then what I can do is I can take a look up, right? And then I can raise that stick up off the ground, pointing in that same straight direction, and I can point towards a tree in the distance, or a rock, or some other feature that I know is pointing north. And then I can walk to that thing, and then I can reset once I get there, and then keep moving my way that way. And just having a kind of an aiming stick like that seems to be helpful. You don't have to do that. If you're doing really rough navigation, it's not really that big a deal. If I know I just need to go, if I need to go north-ish, I can just hold this thing in my hand. Again, keep it away from anything metal. Hold this thing out in my hand. I know that's pointing north. Boom, that's north. I'm just gonna keep using it to walk and keep walking in that direction. It's as simple as that. As long as you're not trying to find a tiny little needle in a haystack, it's quite effective. Do I think little tin survival kits such as this are important to have? I think so. If for no other reason, it gets you out testing some of your gear. That is value in and of itself right there. If that's all it does for you is get you out there and you want to practice and test some of this stuff out and see if it works, how it works, then do it. Like we discovered today that duct tape is not the best way to fasten a blade to a stick. I mean, I kind of expected that, but unless you go out and test these things, you won't know for sure how it's going to perform. So for that reason alone, I think that these little pocket mini survival kits, building them, crafting them, and then getting out and using them, more importantly, I think is really, really cool. And then again, you could build a kit like this. You could stick it in your cargo pocket of your pants before you head out into a hike, and you could forget about it until you need it. And then you're in business. And as long as you're covering the basics, fire, keep yourself warm with some sort of fire, water, a way to get water, a way to contain water, some sort of container, a way to purify it, make it safe to drink. That's really key, and a way to make shelter. I mean, again, carrying a shelter, carry a shelter. I always carry a poncho with me everywhere I go. That's my basic form of shelter right there. My clothing and then a poncho on top of that, and you're going to be good to go. But if you should be that real ultralight minimalist and doesn't feel like carrying something as lightweight and small as a poncho or an emergency blanket perhaps, then having a way to craft a shelter is a pretty big deal in my opinion. Fire, water, and shelter. If you can cover those three things right there, you are going to be in business, at least for the short term. That'll keep you alive for the short term. And then having a way to make repairs to your clothing or whatever. Your shoe starts to fall apart. I've had that happen on me lots of times. The rubber starts peeling off the sole or something. You could use this to temporarily fix it. And sometimes kits like this are good not just for survival reasons, but for convenience reasons. That's why primarily where I wear the Wazoo cash belt, is because it's got items in there that are just convenience items. I can use it to kind of save the day from being inconvenient. I'm not gonna die if I don't have a piece of brass wire, but it keeps me going. I can strap something down, I can tie something down, I can jump a fuse, which I've done before with that brass wire out of my belt. So convenience, maybe not survival. I'd love to hear what you guys think about these pocket tin survival kits. Have you built one before? What did you think about it? Was it effective? Are they worth carrying? Or was it just a good time? I'm cold, I'm wet, I need to get my fire going. I'm grabbing anything I can find that's not touching the ground, I'm not being picky. I just fell in the icy cold stream, so I don't have time to be picky, but I gotta find good stuff. I can't make the mistake of picking inadequate materials that aren't gonna catch on fire quickly. We really needed fire going, and we were going to die. Let's see what we can do. Sufficiently wet? Now it's sufficiently wet. So it's pouring down rain right now. We're struggling. Everything's wet. Doing the best we can here. We're gonna give it some shakes. Like that. I'm shivering, I'm cold, I'm miserable, life sucks. I don't think that's gonna do it. I don't think this is enough. I don't think it's gonna be effective enough. We also are gonna use our duct tape. We're gonna use our duct tape stick right there. We're gonna stick our our tinder tab in there too, like that. Maybe if we wanted to, we could use this Ranger band too. I don't know if it's going to be necessary, but if I was really concerned and this is my one chance to get a fire, maybe that's what I would do. Maybe I'd just take this like that. So we got a Ranger band, we got duct tape, we've got a tinder tab to light the whole thing on fire to get it all going. Right there. Assuming we didn't let our lighter get wet and have to dry it out. That's definitely a thing. You can definitely dry your lighters out. But let's hope that we don't have to. If we were smart enough to keep it dry. So I've got my fire lay right there. I've got some super, let's see if the super glue is flammable. I'd be willing to bet that it is, but let's find out. Let's see how flammable super glue is. Yeah, not really. Super glue, not a very effective fire starter, and now we know. But I'll tell you what is an effective fire starter. That is a Bic lighter, a tinder tab, duct tape, and a Ranger band. If that doesn't get our fire going, we're in a lot of trouble. So quick light, barely used any of the fuel in my Bic lighter there. Put that back in its spot. And then I'm just going to take my stick here, that was also the handle to my little tomahawk, and I'm just going to stick that up underneath my kindling there. I'm going to start drying out all my wet kindling here that I've placed on top. You should be able to see that a little better. I'm going to pull this off real quick so you can see what's happening. See that? See, now that Ranger band's on fire too. Can you see it? Ranger band's burning. So I'm gonna set all my wet kindling on top of there, just like that. And I'm gonna hold it on there. And the heat from that burning rubber and stuff and the duct tape is going to slowly start drying out my wet kindling here. This is not ideal stuff. I'd like to have stuff a little bit smaller. I'd like to have stuff a lot a bit drier. But sometimes you got to work with what you've got, and if you're hurting bad, you got to do what you got to do, and you got to do it in kind of a hurry. Yes, you want to make sure that you get good stuff as dry as possible, but sometimes dry is not a thing. And if it looks like your fire is struggling, I think this one's going to go, but if it looked like your fire was struggling, take that second tinder tab, like this one, put it on a stick, maybe like that right there, and then just feed it in to where that flame is just barely surviving, and give it some more. Give it some more love. And let it keep working for you. You know, if it's really, really wet, and it's really struggling, and you're having a hard time, throw everything you got at it to make sure that fire happens, because if that's the survival priority at the time, then that's the priority. Make it happen. Looks like we're out of the woods now, boys. I think it's gonna catch up. Been about maybe 30 minutes, maybe. And look at that. That is potable water right there, guys. So what you do is you just kind of tap the bag there a little bit, and you get that water to run down, hopefully to right here, and settle in this bottom. And then what we could do is we could just kind of tap into it. We could cut a tiny little hole right there if we wanted to. We could really, well, actually probably what I would do if I wanted to save this bag for more use later is I would just cut this whole thing off, this whole branch off, and I would take it with me. And then I would shake it, get the water down there, and then I would very carefully try to drink it out of there without making a mess, spilling it everywhere. All right, it's probably been an hour or so, give or take. And you can see we've got a little bit of accumulation down there in the bottom of our bag of high quality H2O. And if we give this bag a little tap, you can see all that condensation is gonna run down to the bottom of our bag. There's our water, about an hour. And if I kept this on here longer, you know, left it on here a couple more hours, potentially we could get a significant amount of water in there, you know, several ounces of water. But I think you guys get the idea. This would keep flowing. This would keep flowing water all day long and fill up our bag, hopefully, with lots and lots of water. Just take some patience. Grow, little pumpkin, grow. Please hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one.